Hello and welcome to season 3 of Let's Talk TCI Real Estate. For those of you who are just logging on, please share the page, share it with someone, let them know that we are live today for season 3 of Let's Talk TCI Real Estate. Good afternoon, everyone. Please let me know where you are listening in from. It is a pleasure to be in your homes again on a beautiful Thursday afternoon. So basically, while you like and share the page, I'll just give a brief update about what Let's Talk TCI Real Estate is all about. And then I will tell you about what this show today is about. So for the benefit of those of you who are watching for the first time, the idea of this show is to educate all about aspects of real estate in the Turks and Caicos Islands. It is a question and answer show as well, so do not be afraid to ask your questions and put them in the comment section when listening. So for some of the shows, I will be the sole guest, just explaining the different real estate topics, while for other shows, I will have actually a guest panelist, and they will vary from the various professional sectors. If there is a topic that you are interested in knowing more about, please feel free to contact me, and I will do my best to assist in providing more information about that topic. So just for the benefit of you guys who don't have my contact details, it is v.delance@kw.tc, and my telephone number is 241-3476. So please feel free to let me know if there are any topics that you would like for me to cover in this show for 2022. Okay, so the show is aired on Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. And it's obviously via Facebook, my page, which is Real Estate with Renika Delancey. I would encourage you to please click the notify me when you go live button so that you cannot miss the episodes as we go live. All right, so just a short recap about season 2. I had the privilege of having some amazing guests on the show from different professions. They are all connected to the topic of real estate, of course. The topics were inclusive, but not limited to insurance, ethics, the police department and crime, TC Invest, quantity surveying, foreclosed properties and the process, the government, and also the planning department, to name a few. So all of these topics are worth revisiting. If you did not have the opportunity to watch season 2, you can also go on my YouTube channel where you would see all those topics that we did in 2021. So basically, the segment for today is about the loan mortgage experience. So I'm going to start this segment off by talking about that experience, about my experience, and hoping that you would also participate by typing in the comment sections your experience so that others can learn from it. So once I've already told you about my experience, at the end of this whole segment, I am going to, discuss some of the good things about loan and mortgages, some of the bad experiences that I have received, and I would like to hear about your experiences as well. Some of our good experiences, and also what do we think that, loan officers can improve on, or what can be improved on for us who are buying and to help us with the process. All right, so I would like for your participation today by please putting any information in the comment section as we go along with the process. This is for my benefit, but it's also for your benefit and for the benefit of someone who is looking to get a loan or a mortgage in the Turks and Caicos Islands. So let's move forward with the show for today. So basically, number one, there are numerous reasons why anyone would want to get a loan or mortgage. I'll say number one, you may not have all the funds to make a complete purchase, so you would need the assistance of the bank. And I'll also say number two, you may have the money, but you may not want to use all of your cash. and which is therefore, like I said, another reason for getting a loan or mortgage. The additional funds that you have can be used for the improvement of the land or for renovations to your desired home. Or the additional cash can also be used to help with the purchase of something else. So not because somebody decided to go to the bank to get a loan or mortgage means that they do not have cash. It could be that they just don't want to use all of their cash and be able to use, put away some of that funds for towards another project or to help when they've already bought, like, for example, a land to help with the building. Okay, so I'm going to go in steps, step by steps. So the first step, when I decided to get a loan, the first thing I did was to get pre-qualified. So this is something that I always tell my customers, get pre-qualified. What did I do? I contacted actually 2 banks. And how did I contact the banks? I contacted the banks via email and told them that I was interested in buying a vacant lot and that I was looking to get pre-qualified. So a few points on that. Number 1, I did not wait to make a physical appointment because I know that sometimes it is challenging for me to get time off from my job. So I decided to send an email. For those of you who work in the hotel and is on shift work, yes, it's always good if you can come in person, but don't allow that to stop you from making an inquiry online and communicating with a loan officer. I did everything via email and telephone up to the point until the loan was approved, and I went in to sign all the documents. So please get that. Sometimes when, as an agent, and you say to people, hey, go and get pre-qualified, they feel like they have to physically go into the bank. Therefore, I'm saying to you, when I did my loan application, I did not physically go into the bank. And especially with COVID time now, it's easier for you to communicate with loan officers online. If you don't have a loan officer email address, the agent who you are dealing with can definitely introduce to you loan officers via email. So don't think that I have to take time off from work to go into a bank. When I did it, I just did it online by sending an email to the banks that I was interested in using. The other thing I did was, in sending my email to the loan officer, I was specific about what I wanted to purchase. All right? The amount I was pre-qualified for was not for a vacant lot was not the same as what I was pre-qualified for when I asked about buying a home. So you need to be specific about what you are applying for. So when you send that email to that loan officer, you need to let them know that, hey, I am interested in purchasing a vacant lot. Can you please pre-qualify me? Or I am interested in purchasing a family home. Can you please pre-qualify me? The other thing about my pre-qualification was that during the pre-qualification process, there was an opportunity to ask a lot of questions to help me decide on which bank I wanted to use, okay? At that time, one of the banks were not lending on vacant lots, while the other bank was. Also, one of the banks would not give a construction loan until after a year, while the other bank would. These were all things that I had to consider when deciding on which bank I wanted to use. And of course, who would lend the most and give the best rate. So use your pre-qualification time to ask any important questions that would help to make your decision as to which one of the banks you would want to use or not use. It is okay to send and ask more than one bank for pre-qualification. I did it. There's nothing wrong with doing it, just to make sure that you are able to get the best value for what you are trying to do. All right, so that's just a little synopsis of what happened when I went to get pre-qualified for a loan with a bank. So I'm hoping that this information is helpful. If there is anything that when you went to the bank happened during your pre-qualification process, if there's something you would want to share, please add it in the comments. Let those who are listening know, what did you do when you get pre-qualified? Did you just send an email? Did you go into the bank? These are important questions that other people would want to know. Like I said, I did not go into the bank. I just sent an email and I did the entire process, the entire pre-qualification process via email. So I did not have to take time from my job just to be pre-qualified. Okay? So the second step I took, once I was pre-qualified, I was sent an application form, which I filled out, as well as I had to provide a job letter and proof of my salary. At this time, also, I had to provide a preliminary agreement, which was from a real estate agent. In this case, I am my own real estate agent. I was my own real estate agent, with the acceptance of the property that I had to buy. All right. So basically, a preliminary agreement, it sets out the terms and conditions that you have agreed upon with the owner of the property to say that he has agreed to sell you this property for this amount of money in this amount of time. Okay. So once I was pre-qualified, I filled out my application form and I provide the bank with my job letter, my proof of salary, as well as the preliminary agreement to say that I was buying that property. Okay. So a few things about this second step once I was pre-qualified. My situation was a bit different. The parcel that I was purchasing was recently mutated. Therefore, I had an accepted offer originally before this mutated parcel was given its correct number. At that time, the bank could not proceed with the application until the final numbers of the mutated property was given. Somebody may want to ask, why are you giving so much information? It's just so you could realize that even we as real estate agents, we go through the same process, and you will also realize that different persons may inquire different situations when going for a mortgage or a loan, because the property that they are buying may provide different challenges. So in my case, I was buying a property that was mutated. So even though originally I had an accepted offer from the person who was selling the property, I had to wait until land registry had actually given that parcel its own number, and then I was able to present that preliminary agreement to the bank for processing. Okay. The other thing is that if you are being sold a property that is mutated, like I said, and you're going through the bank, be sure to get a mutation of the new number first before you can proceed. The mutation process sometimes takes a while, as it has to go through the planning for approval, as well as the lands and surveys department, and it goes to the land registry for the final registration. All right, so make sure get that sorted out. The third step, once my application was received, the loan officer then applied for the appraisal to confirm the value of the property. So once you've made an offer on the property, once you've already sent in your application, the next thing what the bank is going to do is they are going to apply for an appraisal. So the appraisal is ordered by the bank on your behalf. Every bank has its own process, but this is what happened with the bank that I chose, right? They had to order the appraisal on my behalf. The appraisal in this case took up to 2 weeks before I received the result of it. That doesn't mean that the appraisal may not take less time, but it's just a good idea for you to be able to know like what time frame to expect whenever the bank applies for an appraisal. You can be looking up to 2 weeks. Okay. You better pray that the land actually or the home gets appraised, or else you would have to come up with a difference as a part of your deposit. So when that appraisal is received back, and say for example, you are purchasing I'm just using a number, a vacant lot at $95,000, and you receive the appraisal, and the appraisal comes in at $80,000. It doesn't mean that the bank cannot lend you any money, continue to lend you money, but it just means that instead of you originally would have been paying a 10% deposit, now you have to pay the balance, the difference between the $95,000 and the $80,000 that the bank is willing to lend you. So you just have to be prepared to come out of pocket for more money if your land or your home, whatever, don't appraise at the value in which you are trying to buy it at. I hope that makes sense and it's not confusing. So basically telling you that the appraisal is very much necessary to know how much the bank is going to lend you on. The banks can say to you, hey, I'm going to lend you on $95,000, but the property has to appraise at that value or above for the bank to be able to lend you what they say they're going to lend you on. Okay, so just other than that, just be prepared to come out of pocket for a bit more money if the property doesn't appraise. So by show of hands, have you applied for a loan and have your evaluation came in lower than the purchase price of the property? Yes, my hands is up. Right? So at that price point, like I said, you can decide to pay the difference, or you can decide not to move forward. Also, you can actually ask for a copy of the appraisal to see how they came up with the value of the land if for any reason you feel that the property was not appraised correctly. You may say that I am being bold by saying this, but remember, you are paying for the appraisal, so it actually belongs to you, right? So you have the right to ask the bank for a copy of the appraisal. This same appraisal can be used if you're applying for the first-time home owner's stamp duty waiver, because when you apply for that stamp duty waiver, a part of that process is that you would need a current appraisal. So this is another reason why you would want to request a copy of that appraisal from the bank. So basically, like I say, once you have the appraisal, ask the banks for a copy of that appraisal if you are applying for first-time homeowners policy so that you can use that appraisal in your application for that additional process. Okay, the fourth step. So after receiving the appraisal, the loan was then submitted, of course, to the bank's overseas office for approval. This process took about a week and a half in my case. I received an approval conditional on providing further information. Once those information were provided, the application had to be resubmitted a second time until a final approval was given. So in my case, I had approval which was conditional first, and then I had the final approval. Not everyone will have an approval that is conditional first. It all depends, again, on your situation and what's going on at the time, right? And then you will get your further approval. So just let me backtrack just a little bit. So first step was that pre-approval. The second step was the pre-qualification. The second step, once I was pre-qualified, that application forms and everything was sent to me to be filled out. After that, the third step was that the loan officer applied for the appraisal. The fourth step, once the appraisal was received back, then the actual application, only at this stage, the actual application was submitted to their overseas office for review and for hopeful approval. Why is it important to go step by step? So you can know where your application is in the process. All right? Sometimes you speak to people and they be like, oh, it's with the bank. It's with the bank. But you need to know what the step is so you can know how to follow up on the process as you move forward. Okay. So the fifth step. So once I knew that my application was approved by the bank, this is when I decided to retain an attorney. I actually retained an attorney, like I say, from the time I received, in my case, a conditional approved letter, because based on what was in the condition, I knew that I was able to meet those requirements. So I know in reality that I would have gotten a final approval. Okay? So Also, at this time, if you are seeking for stamp duty waiver, you can have your attorney begin working on the process for you instead of waiting until the end. Applying for first-time homeowners stamp duty sometimes take a while, so you would want to get on that process right away. Once you already know that you have an approval and you have a copy of that appraisal, you want to start moving forward to start processing that application. So I have actually explained the importance of using an attorney on many of the shows, but I just want to say, make sure to have a good attorney who will look out for your interests and to be able to explain the process to you step by step until you get to the end of the process. The attorney is going to ensure documents are submitted to the Turks and Caicos government for registration after closing on your behalf, from a seller standpoint. And also, like I say, they will make sure that your interest is protected every step of the way. Okay. Also, they're right there to assist you with the homeowner's process if you're not sure about how to go about applying for that stamp duty waiver reduction. I would like to ask, what was your experience with the attorney that you use on island? You don't have to call any names, put it in the comment section. If you've gone through the loan or mortgage process before, did you use an attorney, and what was your experience with that real estate attorney? Yes, I'm asking you to put it in the comment section. Share with me what's your experience, right? In my real estate career, I've partnered with some very good attorneys. They are very easy to talk to. So I'll say to you, don't be intimidated by your attorney. They are really good at giving updates. All you need to do is ask. Just open up the communications line with them, and they are usually very good at communicating with you. All right. And for any reason, if you are not sure about the attorney to use, you can always seek advice from your real estate agent, and they will be able to recommend attorneys that can assist you with this process. So step number 6. I know it's a lot of talking, but basically, I think it's very important to know these steps to make sure that you're moving in the right direction when applying for your loan or mortgage, and that you won't feel as if you don't know what to do, or you're just waiting and sitting and waiting for the loan officer to say something to you. You would know what is the next step. So step number 6. Upon receiving your final approval, of course, the bank will call you in to sign your consent letter. This is another great opportunity if you are meeting in person with your loan officer to ask questions that you would not have normally asked, or ask questions for further clarification before you sign that acceptance letter. You will have a time frame and an acceptance letter to accept or refuse that loan. So not because you are already approved for a loan means you have to move forward. Things may have changed during the time when you decide, and when you look at what is actually on the consent letter, you may have decided that, hey, you know what, I'm not in agreement with this interest rate. I'm not in agreement with some of the terms and conditions. Hey, I don't want to move forward. So you do have the right, even though you have an approval, not to move forward with the loan or mortgage application. But use that opportunity once you are approved and you go in to sign your consent letter. Ask your loan officer to explain the paperwork. Don't just sign. Ask them to explain it so that you are able to understand fully. You may say, well, Vernica, that's common sense. I will read it before I sign it. But I will say to you, sometimes people are intimidated about the process. Sometimes people are intimidated about the process. And, they just feel like, okay, it's a lot of legal jargons and I may not understand it, but you have the right to ask the loan officer exactly to explain all these terms and conditions before you sign. Okay? Right. I just want to stop one quick second. I see that there is a question that asks, how long did it took for you to turn your own key? Actually, my loan application, I actually purchased a vacant lot. It wasn't for a home, but I've guided a number of people in the real estate business in purchasing their own home through mortgage application. And I've had persons who were able to do the final process within about 45 days. But of course, I won't quote it's 45 days for everyone. It's just because it all depends on the complexity of the transaction. Because some persons, for example, may not provide the bank with the information they need in the required time frame, and also there may be conditions to the actual sale process that may hinder you from closing the time you say you are going to close. So there may be different things that would have prevented you from closing in that specific time frame. And after we've already done these few steps, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the likes and dislikes, so you will be able to see about the process that may hinder you from closing on a transaction or turning your keys in your door, in the desired time frame that you would have hoped for. All right? I hope that answers your question. So basically, I was saying, so this on step number 6, so upon the final approval, we're talking about the bank calls you in to sign the consent letters. Like I said, make sure ask those questions that you would never have asked. Use that opportunity to really read the agreements. For example, in my case, I was eager to know when I went in to sign my consent letter, I was eager to know what is the penalty if I decided to pay my loan off before the expiration date. Because I'm thinking, okay, I want to pay this off as quick as possible. What penalties at that I'm looking forward to? In my case, if I had paid the loan off before 3 years, I was told that I would have at least 6 months of interest penalty on the balance of the loan. But if I decided to do it after the 3 years, I just had to give a notice of when the lump sum payment will be made, and the penalties would not have been as great. So for me, that was an important question. Okay. I also found out during that time of signing the consent letter that the bank that I chose to use, because it was a land loan, I could not choose which insurance company I wanted to use. However, the loan officer had explained that if I was getting a mortgage, I would be able to select an outside insurance company other than what the bank was offering for home and life insurance. That's also important for some people, because that's also important for some persons, because by using an insurance company that's not a part of the bank system, some people feel that they would have gotten a better insurance rate or be able to do a better payment plan. There are so many other reasons why persons would decide not to use the bank insurance company compared to using and someone else who's independent. So if that's an important factor for you, that's a good opportunity to ask a question. So I was able to find out, like I said, because it was a land loan, I was not able to choose my own insurance company. But if I was buying a house, yes, I would have been able to choose an insurance company. So I'm going to throw the question out there again. For those of you who have had a loan or a mortgage, while you were signing your consent letter, is there anything that you learned in that process that you would want to share with everyone else? Or were there any questions that you had that you got the answers to that you would want to share with anyone else? I know I'm just asking it. Please feel free to put it in the comment section, because the purpose of this show is for everyone to benefit. I'm sharing my experience, and I'm hoping that you can share your experience with me as well, so that we all can learn from this process. Okay? So step number 7. So after consent letters was signed, all the final closing documents with the attorneys and the banks in preparation for closing, which includes the signing of the charge documents by the bank, the transfer documents by the attorneys, they were all done at this time. So once you sign the consent letter telling the bank, hey, I am moving forward, the next thing was about preparing all the closing documents. All right. So when in dealing with the closing documents, you have to be prepared to get those closing documents notarized. The charge documents needs to be notarized. The transfer documents need to be notarized. So this is when you're going to actually need some time to get out of your office space to be able to maneuver up and down to get these documents notarized in time for the closing process. All right. So that's basically the steps that I took while getting my loan. Basically, like I said, pre-qualification was the first step. Once I was pre-qualified, application form was sent to me, which was filled out. Once the application form was filled out, the next step was the loan officer actually applied for the appraisal to be done. Then after receiving the appraisal, that only at that stage was the loan submitted. And after the loan was submitted, then I received confirmation of approval. And at that time, I retained an attorney. After retaining an attorney, then the bank had called me in to sign the final papers. So that's part of the basic steps that I went through. So please share your comments. Let us know how your process was. So what are some of the things that I liked about the loan process? Can anybody share anything about your loan experience and what did you like about the loan process? So I will say the loan officer I selected was easy to communicate with. Communication is key in the overall success of the transaction. Basically, once an email was sent to my loan officer, he responded right away in a timely manner. I think that is very important when you are getting a loan with a bank. You want to work along with a loan officer who you are able to communicate with easy. You want to be able to communicate with that loan officer very easy and not be afraid to communicate. You have to also remember not to be afraid to communicate, right? If you don't ask, you don't know. And sometimes, remember, loan officers may have a lot of things going on. So you have to also remember to reach out and ask for updates as well. But what I did like about my process was the loan officer that I selected. He was very easy to communicate with, and he communicated with me in a timely manner. And whenever I sent him an email asking for an update, I knew he was tired of me sometimes, but he responded right away. What would you say that you liked about your loan process? Okay, well, what are some of the things I dislike about the loan process? Again, this show isn't about pulling anyone down, but it's about being real, about sharing your experience so others can learn from the experience and they can know what to expect. We can't give all the good and positive stuff and if we're going to be real, we also have to share the things that really did go wrong in the process. So the officer can make amends, but also we can make amends so that we can make the process more simplified and much more smoother. So let me tell you what I didn't like about my loan process. Yes, I'm on air. My loan officer actually had a scheduled holiday and was missing for a period of time, therefore created a delay in the process. The good thing about it, however, was that when I found out that that he was on holiday, I was able to speak with someone else who was able to step in his place until he returned. Did anybody else have that same experience where they did a loan application and while going through the process, your loan officer went on holiday? Show of hands. We are not insulting the loan officers because they work very hard, but we're just pointing out some of the challenges so you could know what to expect, so the loan officers can correct it, so we can know how to deal with it when it comes up. So like I said, immediately when I realized that my loan officer went on holiday, yes, he's entitled to a holiday, I reached out to someone at the bank, and guess what? Someone at the bank was able to replace him right away until he came from holiday and assisted me in the process. All right. And so my process continued to move smoother after doing that, right? When you are going through the process, waiting and not knowing what is happening with the application is painful, especially when you know that you are on a timeline and someone is waiting on the same property that you are interested in. That happens a lot, right? So of course you've made an offer on a property. Your offer is subject to you obtaining bank financing. Your offer will also have a timeline. So your offer may have said subject to you receiving financing within 30 days or 30 working days, whichever one it may be. You are now on a timeline. So you as a purchaser is feeling the pressure of the time period in which you need to get this loan approved. So every time you have to wait, there's a delay in your process. It's a painful feeling. So you have to make sure be on top of your game and allow your officer, just remind that officer to know, hey, I'm on a timeline. I know they know it, but you have to be on top of them and remind them, hey, my deadline is next week, my deadline is the other week. But also at the same time, you want to make sure that you are providing the information in a timely manner. As you stay on top of them, you also do what you got to do to do what you have to do. So basically for my process, the only thing I had really dislike about the process was my loan officer went on a holiday for a couple of days and went missing until I was able to get someone to fill out. What did you dislike about your loan process? What hiccups did you have? Please put it in the comment section. Let's share our hiccups. And so that, other people can see it, learn from it, and we can know how to tackle it when we are applying for a loan or mortgage. Everyone's experience is not going to be the same. I'm sharing my experience with you. I'm hoping that you can share your experience with me. All right. And one of the last thing I would like to say, I'm hoping that you're getting something from this whole segment of the loan experience, the mortgage experience. So a few things I would like to say before I wrap it all up. Just so things you have to, that I would say, remember about the process. Make sure that all your information is ready and available to be provided to the loan officer. For example, like your bank reference letter, your source of funds, your letter from your employer or pay slips. If you get pay slips, make sure get those pay slips handy. If you don't get pay slips, make sure you have a letter from your employer, right? The longer you delay, the longer the process is delayed. So a lot of times we may want to blame the banks, but also we have to look within ourselves to see, hey, am I providing the information in a timely manner? We need to have that information to provide in a timely manner so that that process can move quicker as well, okay? The other thing is, do not be afraid to speak to your loan officer. Get their email address and send a weekly follow-up if you don't hear from them. If you don't have their email address, whoever connected you with the loan officer, ask them for a copy, for their email address. Their email address is available to the public, and do a weekly follow-up with them. Don't sit down at work or whatever just saying, oh, I haven't heard from the loan officer. 2 weeks has passed, you haven't heard from the loan officer, and you haven't said anything. Just do a follow-up with them, and I'm sure that they will get back to you. And if you have a good loan officer, that loan officer is not gonna mind sending you an update on the process. The other thing I would say is, if you don't know the answer to a question, ask. The loan officer is obligated to provide you with a response. Remember, you are going to them for a service, and they are there to get that loan or mortgage application process. So ask them. There is no crazy or stupid question. You're asking a question because you don't know the answer to the question, and it's their responsibility to respond to you. The other thing I would say is that if you are still unsure about the process, get your real estate agent involved. they can also help with guiding you through the process. So if you are applying for a loan, you are going through the mortgage process, and you are stuck, your loan officer has not responded to you, get that real estate agent involved with the process. Help them to reach out on your behalf, or help them to guide you in sending the appropriate email or making the right calls for you to help you get a response to your application. You need to understand where your application is so that if you have to do anything to push the process along, you can do what it takes to get that process moving. Okay? That's really it. Sometimes loan officers, they are very busy as well. But the day you give them a nudge, guess what? They're going to be right on it, and they're going to start moving forward. And if you see that your loan application is not being processed, you have the rights to use another channel or use another bank. But don't just sit waiting for that officer and not getting regular follow-ups. For the most part, like I say, most of the officers are really on top of their game, and they are doing a good job, but there are still some delinquent ones out there that needs an extra push. I was grateful that with my loan officer, he was right on top of my game. And I don't know if it was because I was a real estate agent and he knew that I'm this bold and aggressive person and I was just going to push. But the whole thing is about, you can't just sit down on the application. You want it to move as quickly as possible because you are on a time frame to get your application processed. All right? So ask questions every step of the way of the process until it is completed. So that's my loan experience in a nutshell. I know it's a lot of talking, but I would hope that you would also share how was your loan process. What are some of the experiences you received? What are some of the dislikes that you encountered? What are some of the things you would like to see improved? Put it in the comment section. Trust me, a loan officer I'm sure will look at this show and they will be able to see those things that they need to improve on. The only way we can have improvement if we speak out and let people know what's going on so there can be an improvement in the process. I would like to say thanks to my loan officer. He did a really good job in servicing my loan and getting it approved and getting it done in a timely manner. Kudos to you. I like to give hats off to anyone who does a good job. And for you loan officers who are not doing a good job, please brush up. Don't take this personal. I'm just trying to help my people out there who are trying to get a loan and a mortgage. And definitely, you can also put your comments in the section as well to let us know as purchasers what we need to do to improve to help you in the process of getting our applications out in a timely manner. All right. So next week, we will be hearing from the National Trust. Please, if you have any questions that you would like to ask the National Trust, you can send them in advance to my email address, or you can just send me a nudge on Messenger, and or put them in the comment section so we can pass those questions on to the National Trust. You may think, what does the National Trust have to do with real estate? Tune in next week, you will be informed. All right, and definitely if there's a topic you would like to know more about, send me an email as well, and I'll do my best to share information on that topic. Thank you so much for joining me today for the first edition of episode 3 of Let's Talk TCI Real Estate. I am looking forward to a successful and a great and educational session with you for 2022. So until next time, I will say to all those who are listening, stay safe and remain blessed. Have a good afternoon. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on this show belong solely to Let's Talk TCI Real Estate and not that of Keller Williams TCI or any of its affiliates. Any action you take upon the information provided on this show is strictly at your own risk, and Let's Talk TCI Real Estate guests or hosts will not be liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of the material. I am not an investment advisor, broker, or dealer.